We'll go ahead and get started here with the briefing regarding the severe weather and the strong winds we're expecting tomorrow. This is Megan Williams with the Slidell National Weather Service office. Still expecting that slight to enhanced risk of severe weather for tomorrow, mainly going to be afternoon and evening. We'll talk about the specifics and some of the timing here shortly. The other thing that we wanted to make sure that we mention is the potential for these strong winds, gusty winds tomorrow, starting around sunrise and going on through the afternoon and evening hours. So we'll talk about some of the timing and specifics of that, but generally looking at sustained winds 25 to 35 miles an hour with higher frequent wind gusts 40 to 45 miles an hour. We'll start off talking about the severe weather, generally looking at enhanced risk of severe weather Tuesday. This is the 3 out of 5 risk. Mainly the biggest risk is going to be for the northwest areas, southwest Mississippi, northwest of Baton Rouge, but we could see that severe weather for our entire area. The main threats with this are going to be the potential for those damaging winds, 60 plus miles an hour, as well as the potential for a few tornadoes as this line moves through. I do have a timing graphic for you, so we'll talk about that. Generally, and this is just for the line of storms and the severe weather expected, generally the timing for this, for the western areas, basically everything Baton Rouge and west is going to be noon to 6 p.m. tomorrow. For North Shore areas, for Macomb, for everything New Orleans, Metro, Houma, Thibodaux, etc., that's going to be 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow for the main severe weather threat. And then everything east of that, so the Mississippi coast as well as Plaquemine, St. Bernard, that's going to be mainly the timing for that's going to be 4 p.m. through 10 p.m. Generally looking at less than an inch for the rainfall, but just want to make sure that we show that to you all so we're not overly concerned about the rainfall risk, but these are the totals, and the Mississippi coast is probably where we're going to see the higher rainfall totals, closer to an inch there. So let's talk about the wind gusts that we're expecting. Generally, this is going to start shortly around sunrise or just after sunrise. We're expecting by 9 a.m. that we're going to have these wind gusts up to 35 miles an hour, and then by noon have wind gusts greater than 40 miles an hour, and that's going to persist through the afternoon and into the evening hours. Generally what you're looking at here, so the graphic on the left is going to be the most likely scenario. So generally widespread gusts, wind gusts between 40 and 45 miles an hour. The graphic that you see on the right is the reasonable worst case scenario. And as you can see on the graphic, generally the reasonable worst case that we're looking at is going to be 50 to 55 miles an hour gusts. For a lot of locations, and especially the further north you go, but generally everywhere you could see this for the worst case. The other thing that we wanted to mention was that especially for the urban areas, especially for example the New Orleans metro, we are expecting the winds to be stronger between buildings as well, and we wanted to make sure that we mentioned that as well. The other thing that I wanted to mention, I don't have the graphic in here, is the coastal flood advisory. Generally, that's going to be for up to a foot of inundation. That's going to be for our entire coastline. But especially, for example, I wanted to mention that high tide's around 2 p.m. And so, for example, Wavelands, you're looking at about a foot to a foot and a half above, and Grand Isle is looking at about a foot above. So I want to make sure that we mention that as well, because that's another hazard tomorrow to be concerned about. So to sum it up, generally the slight to enhanced risk of severe weather as this line moves through tomorrow, mainly going to be afternoon and evening. Again, the greatest risks with that is going to be this damaging winds greater than 60 miles an hour, as well as the potential for a few tornadoes associated with that. And then the other hazards to note are these higher wind gusts and wind speeds tomorrow throughout the day, basically after 6, 7 a.m. and persisting through the evening hours. as well as the coastal flood advisory. So give me 1 second and I'll open it up for questions.